Hello, welcome, shalom, even welcome to another 5-star episode of Props to Consider and Then Maybe Bet. I am your host. I am the paragon of virtue, Lou Betya, joined by one of my absolute favorite people in the community, somebody I've worked with many times, somebody who is just moved and is going through major life changes, and I'm very proud of him as an older person and his friend, Gordo Gambles. Gordo, how are you doing? How's been the move to America, and how are you looking forward to this card?
That was a nice, sweet intro. I appreciate you, man. And you know what, man? I am so happy to be face to face with you across the screen here talking fights, man. It's one of my favorite things to do. Look forward to seeing the Horseman ride again sometime soon. But either way, man, happy to be on the show. And the move has been good so far. The land of the free has been nothing but kind to me so far, and nothing but good things to say. But you're right, big life change, and there's no better way to escape that than talk some fights. And guess what? Talk some Yambag. This is the only channel I can talk Yambag without being sued on, right? So I got to.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely our lawyer is very good. We have Barry Zuckerkorn as our lawyer here from Arrested Development, and he is very, very good if you know that. But anyway, if you guys are watching, I appreciate it. I know Gordo appreciates it. Please go follow him on Twitter, follow his YouTube channel. Everything's listed in the description on the screen. Please like this video, subscribe to the MMA Engine channel. It does help us a lot. Without further ado, let's get into it, Gordo. What is the first prop to consider and then maybe bet that you have for us?
Well, let's give a nice little disclaimer out here. We went big plus money today, and that's exactly what I want to see when I'm hanging out with Lou Betya. There's no one who does the plus money better, especially talking on Brady's show Best Bet. I'm on there too, and I give conservative bets, and guess what? I'm not in first place like this man right here. So I do have to go out here and fish for these ones. And I think my lowest money prop this week is going to be on the Zoleski fight. Let's talk about this Zoleski Santos fight. That fight is a fun one because it is one that is filled with a bunch of narratives, one being the PED suspension, one being the lesser Nurmagomedov, as some people want to call him. And despite there being multiple narratives, the way this thing can go, I'm taking Zoleski by submission at plus 700. That's a way I'm looking at this one. And I know you're thinking to yourself, Gordo, Zoleski's a striker, Nurmagomedov's a wrestler. What's going on here? Zoleski's got submissions on his record. He's a guy who's very crafty with the way it is. And I think that considering the I don't want to say poor, but the questionable entries we do see Nurmagomedov have on his entries, as well as the poor decisions he makes when he's on top position and guard, this number should be a bit closer than it is. So I think that the way this fight is playing out, the way we see the hunger from Zoleski, maybe that's kind of the roids, but I do think this number should be better than plus 700, and I do think it's one I will be playing for some funsies this week. And if that's my lowest price number, you know we're in for some fun.
If 700 is your lowest price number, that's pretty great. Well, let's move on to one that I know both of us have, and this is my lowest price number. It's plus 650, so it's not too bad. This is over at FanDuel. Kareem Silva KO 1-2 is plus 650. I know that everybody is going to be jumping on the sub prop here. This is more, she has knockouts. She has pretty good striking. She's going to be the bigger person in the cage, the more powerful one. I don't know that I trust her 3-round cardio. That's why I cut it down with the round 1, round 2 here. But what I like about this is, like I said, I think the one of the last 2 subs she had was a clubbing sub. She's getting knockdowns. She's powerful. I don't love Ketlin Sousa's striking defense. I have a feeling on the other side of this one, but for me, I just think the KO is where sub is obviously the most viable path for her, especially getting takedowns early and often, or just one and holding her down. I just think the KO is mispriced here with somebody who definitely has the power to win in that method. So give me the Kareem Silva round 1, round 2 KO plus 650 on FanDuel.
That is a very solid line, and your intuition's on point. I'm kind of on the other side, but in the perfect way. If you think that the round 1, round 2 is the perfect way to go at it, give me Soza round 3 plus 2,500. I think that we all know the red flag we have here for Silva is her cardio, someone who doesn't look like she's able to go out there and fight for the whole 15, whereas we've seen Soza fight hard in these 25-minute bouts, the 5 rounds on the regional scene. We know her cardio's there. So if you're going to have someone in Silva who's going to put it all on the line to get her out there round 1, round 2, and she's not able to, plus 2,500 is a wide margin for someone in Soza who I do think has the superior gas tank and will be the one still fighting after 10 minutes. So a bit wide. That is my longest one. I just have it on Fight Odds, so let's see what
Okay.
fight on. I'll find it for you. Don't you worry. I apologize for my lack of preparedness here, but we're throwing out big plus money. Got to make sure we got it there. Soza in round 3 is plus 2,500 on Unibet, and it is plus 2,000 or 2,200 on Bet Online.
All right. That's excellent.
I'm okay
Excellent
with either.
odds, and definitely a good way to pivot off of the round 1, round 2 prop as well. All right, let me move on to. I got 2 that have the same odds, so let me go to now. I want to say this right now that I favor Pineda, and I feel like it's probably a sucker bet, but I favor Pineda to get this done probably within the first 7-8 minutes. But when I was looking at the combos, I do think Alex Caceres could take over this fight middle, late second round, the whole third round. He's going to have a cardio advantage. He's very hard to knock out. He can be subbed, but he's very hard to knock out. I do not trust Pineda's cardio late. I was on him against Tucker Lutz. Caceres is, and I don't rate Caceres as highly as some people, but he's way better than Tucker Lutz. I have Tucker Lutz, not rated that highly. So Caceres round 2, round 3 submission on FanDuel is plus 1,100. I know Caceres just got a knockout against DeRosa, but come on, dude. Everybody knocks out Rosa.
Who
Caceres
doesn't?
isn't a knock. Caceres is a knockout guy. His path here is just Pineda tires. Caceres can get him down on the ground. He's getting tired, getting up. And there's times, Pineda against, I know he's had some really good wins in his career, but if you go back to the Andre Fili fight, I think this is the most important thing you're going to watch in his tape. Man, he just did not look like he wanted to be in there 2 minutes into it when it wasn't going his way. The second this guy gets tired in a fight, you could just tell he is just looking for an out. That's why he doesn't go to decisions. That's why he's never won a decision. So I think by the end of the second round, Caceres will take over. Caceres is a great live bet here as well. But that's not the point of the show. This isn't live bets to consider and then hopefully bet. This is props to consider. So Caceres round 2, round 3 sub for me at plus 1,100, I think is pretty interesting. I know a lot of people are on the under here, and I actually wanted to look at this decision, but it's plus 215, and there's no meat on the bone for that for me. But I do think a sub's very live for Caceres here. So especially in a fight where I think there's going to be grappling, and against the guy who's a known gasser, give me that late submission. What do you think about that fight?
I think that's a great way of looking at it, and I think that it's one that comes with a lot of different narratives and one that comes with different possibilities. But I don't know if you hear that in the background. I don't know if this is the perfect time to sound this alarm or anything. But I'd go Yambags on this one. And I know it's the only.
We do that. We do that later. We do that later.
Okay. So there's my spoiler alert. So we're going to talk about that in a few.
All right. What's the next fight you have for us today?
The ugliest fight. I'm like, oh, that's maybe not right. But let's go Jin Yu Frey, Elise Reed. An ugly one, maybe not the ugliest.
Okay.
All right. It's that one. This is kind of like my squarest one of them all. And this is, again, Narrative Nation. This is something that I wouldn't put too much stock into. But if we're looking for big plus money and we're looking at ways that opponents have lost fights, the 38-year-old Jin Yu Frey was just knocked out very early on in the first round. And when you give me someone who hits as hard as Reed, round 1 KO plus 800, there's another plus money one. And I get it. It's one that is a bit square of me there, but I'm not liking the way that durability has looked for Frey recently. And it's one that, although Reed does have a lot of holes in her game, she does throw with a lot of fight-ending intention. So wouldn't be surprised if that was a potential outcome here. And when you get an 8-1 on it, don't mind it there.
I think Reed's looked decent in first rounds too. The volume's not a problem. Jin Yu Frey's are already pretty tentative, pretty low volume. We don't know what we're going to see from her here. What I can tell you is we're not going to see a new and improved Jin Yu Frey who's throwing 80 strikes, who's landing 5 takedowns in a round. So I like that look on Reed. I haven't bet that fight at all yet because it just screams I think the only way to attack it is from a prop perspective. So I think that's a good way to look at it.
And more so, it's who hits harder, Polyana Vienna or at least Reed kind of thing.
I know we both have a prop on the Blackshear Lucero fight, so I'll leave that one for next. But I'm gonna go. So this is probably your Twitter argument fight of the week would be John Castaneda against Muin Gafferov, and I understand why. Gafferov, good skill set, taking it on short notice. Not a great look in the Contender Series when he gassed himself out against Dan Helliger, but I think the skill set's there, the wrestling's there. Castaneda is tough. I think everybody's just assuming he's gonna, he got finished by Santos. It's just like, oh, now the durability's gone. I don't think that's the case. I think Santos is a pretty special talent, and he was getting rocked and just came back, and he's like a zombie, and I don't think Gafferov's really like that here. I think if anybody does go to the grappling, it will be Gafferov. I think that Castaneda is going to have tons of moments on the feet that look good. I think as this fight goes on, Castaneda will get stronger. He probably wins the third round at a pretty high clip, just due to the short notice nature of this fight. But I think Gafferov can get enough done in the first 2 rounds to win it. Gafferov split decision plus 1,200 is a very interesting look for me. On a fight where the over is already shaded, juiced, I believe it was, I have it up right now. The over 2.5 is minus 145, and the fight doesn't go is minus 105. So if you're giving me a guy who I think can win the fight and it has the grappling advantage, and you can give me a split plus 1,200, I think we're getting really good equity there for this. And that's all I really have to say about that fight. I do have bets on Win. I actually have a bet on him by submission, very, very small, because I thought that line was kind of wrong too. It was plus 900. I know he hasn't gotten a submission in a long time. But again, if you're going to give me somebody who, if this thing gets hairy on the feet, is absolutely going to try to take this to the ground. His top control is not the greatest, but Castaneda exerts a lot of energy too. So I think the sub opportunities could present themselves. But for the sake of this show, and another bet I will add is the split decision at plus 1,200.
Love it, man. I love it.
All right. Well, I know we have one more each for the people, and they both involve the Blackshear Lucero fight. So you start with this one.
Yeah, this was the one that was like the last one I wanted to mention, because this is a very close contested fight. And really, again, if I'm fishing for big plus money here, I got to have a good reason to do it. And I don't have the most certainty, but the best way I'm looking at this one is Lucero round 3 plus 1,000. And the reason is, again, because of that cardio issues we do see on the Blackshear side of things. And although it was on short notice, it wasn't a good look there when he was able to fade down the stretch. So to me, we have ourselves 2 very green strikers, and two guys who want to take it to the ground, one of them being a superior wrestler, the other one being a superior grappler. And in this one here, I just think that the guy who's going to have the better cardio and the better volume and aggression on the feet is going to be Lucero. And I think he's able to take it to Blackshear late, especially if he's down on the cards. And I do think that finish should be shaded, or that round 3 finish should be shaded a bit closer to worse odds there. So plus 1,000 on the finish for Lucero in round 3.
Okay. I see it. I'm on the opposite side here. And somehow not playing a round prop, I got a little better number than you. I think, and I know some people in the community have been talking about this week, but the Blackshear submission at plus 1,100 is crazy to me in a fight where we're absolutely going to see a lot of grappling exchanges. Like at a very high clip, this is going to be fought in the grappling realm. It would be smart of Blackshear. And what I worry about with Blackshear is I know that he accepts being on bottom sometimes. He's got to be careful here not to do that. But if this thing's on the ground, I think the cardio concerns with Blackshear are slightly overblown. I know the Zalal fight was a bad look.
Sure.
He took it on a couple of days' notice. He looked great in the first 2 rounds. I mean, and Zalal was, and you look at the strength of schedule this guy's fought. Some of these grapplers he's fought Sabatini, fought Sabatello. The guy, Farid Basharat, I know there's mixed reviews on how people rate him. I love the Basharat brothers. I think their skill set's very good. Technical strikers. Their fight IQ is off the charts. And he had moments in that 3rd round against Farid Basharat where, he could have stolen that fight. So by finish, but he didn't. But I just think that the cardio concerns are overblown. I also think that we're getting a weird line here where money's coming in on Lucero a little bit more today. Blackshear was about plus 120 this morning. He's plus 130 now on DraftKings Sportsbook. So I guess some more money's coming in on Lucero. I think him being a big underdog and looking okay against Cody Stamann is giving us like kind of an odd number here. And the last thing I'll say is Blackshear probably fighting for his job if he loses 3 in a row. Even though he's not getting paid a ton and he's on the prelims, I cannot imagine he'll be back in like LFA or wherever after this if he loses. So a lot of desperation on his side too. So we'll see if he gets a submission at plus 1,100 again. And like anybody watching the show, like this isn't just predictions for fights. We're looking at numbers versus outcomes. And like, if you get a lot of my picks that I've made today with like the Caceres sub, you're giving me fights that are going to play out in the grappling realm. against a guy in, like with Pineda that has cardio issues. And then Blackshear Lucero, we'll see. But I mean, if you're going to give me a fight that's going to be fought in the grappling realm and you're giving me an absolutely crazy number on a submission price with guys that have submissions, you have to take a poke at it. So if you hit one of these, you're profitable. So, and so you are on the round 3.
Yes. And that's why it was like the last one on my list, was because it is a small sample size of that cardio being a downfall, but this is going to be a high pace fight, man. A lot of grappling exchanges, which is why I really like your number there too. Close fight should be a fun one.
So I will sum up for the people what we have on everything but the main event. Gordo has Zoleski to Santos submission plus 700. Ketlin Souza round 3 plus 2,500. Elise Reed round 1 KO plus 800. And round 3 Lucero at plus 1,000. And I have Karine Silva round 1, round 2 KO plus 650. Alex Caceres round 2, round 3 submission plus 1,100. Wayne Gafferov split decision plus 1,200. And Damone Blackshear submission plus 1,100. Now we will get to the main event. Gordo, I will let you start us off. I have not watched any of your content or heard your picks.
Shame on you.
I hate to before the show. I like watching it after because I don't want to know. What side are you on for the main event? How do you see it playing out? You don't need a bonkers prop here. Like, I have one, but you don't need one for this.
I'm really struggling to find a bonkers prop, and that kind of makes me mad because this is the whole point of the show, right? We are talking about props to consider that maybe bet. But for those who don't know, I'm a DraftKings player first. I'm someone who likes to think about the numbers, the potential upside, and who's going to win me more money if they win. Amir Albazi, and it is a very close fight. You can make a lot of the points for it being a experience edge and a striking edge for someone like Kai France, and I get that. But I do think that all the spots we've seen Kai France be held in, be questionable in, is something that I think Amir Albazi can pose threats in. So for me, my simple prop this week is just going to be Amir Albazi by submission. And to me, it is a tough one to call. I think it's going to be a very intriguing fight. And I didn't want too much of a financial investment, but if I had to pick a way to get a good, decent plus money shot on it, it's going to be that way. Him to win by submission sitting at plus 285. And again, I look back to the Royval fight or the Bontarine fight, all these positions that these superior grapplers are able to put him in. I think Albazi's ground game is legit, and I think he does go there if it gets hairy in the striking. That's the way I'm going.
Yeah, I'm just going to add to what you said. And on FanDuel, the round 1 through round 3 submission prop is plus 390. I do think if you get the submission, it's going to be in those first 3 rounds.
Agree.
We've never seen, obviously Albazi's not a guy who has ever fought a 5-round fight, and this is the best guy he's ever fought. If he's going to get takedowns, and he's going to be able, it's going to be before they get like super sweaty. And I do think that he can have a lot of early grappling success. I will say this: for anybody watching that likes the Kai France side here, FanDuel has round 3 through round 5 KO at plus 1,100 for Kai France. So if you really like that, that's fine. Wow. I like fight doesn't go the distance as just a general play here. I do think Albazi can get him out early. It's a great fight. I've gone back and forth with it. I think the biggest knock on Albazi is the strength of schedule. And I really think that's it. The knocks on him is not the skill set. It's the strength of schedule. And I talked about this last night with Addicted to Combat with Patrick, that look at the fights that have been canceled that he's been in. Like, look at who they've scheduled him against. Like, they're trying to give this guy the best fights they can in division. They're going to give him Elliott, then Alex Perez. I know Alex Perez withdrew, like, shocking. I know Royval broke his wrist. I mean, like, he pulled out because of like a bad injury, but they're trying to match him up against like, some of these top guys in the division. So, we'll see. I mean, like, it seems odd that you beat like Alessandro Costa on short notice and now you're in a main event, but that's how highly they think of this guy. They're trying to fast track him. And, the last thing I'll add to this is that people think that like Kai France has this massive advantage on the feet. I do think he has an advantage on the feet. I don't think it's I think it's a lot closer than people are giving him credit for. I think the power's close. France's volume's pretty good. Like, he has more volume than Albazi, but I don't know that he has like, an insanely more KO upside. But anyway,
the main thing for me is the discrepancy on the ground is wider than the discrepancy on the feet, in my opinion. That's
big, 100%. So that takes us to the last part of the show, guys. If you were watching,
I already spoiled it.
Well, you get to break down why. So if you're watching for the first time, number 1, shame on you. And number 2, this is the Yambag special. This is when my guest and myself break down which fight we think will have a point deduction. The last time it was hit on the show, which is now in our crawler, Ed, by God, Herman got us that 20-1, made us that bag. Gordo, which fight do you think will have a Yambag and why?
Surprisingly, there are a few of them that you could attribute Yambags to, and I may or may not have seen a tweet of yours that talked about what to fight. So I went with a different one. I went with Alex Caceres versus Daniel Pineda. Whoa, no one saw that one coming, right? No. To me, this is largely attributed to the Daniel Pineda side of things. Like you already mentioned, he is someone who likes to take the easy way out when he's not doing well. And you know what? That Andre Fili fight was one way to put it as well. And I think that if there is anyone who's going to cheat to get out of there quicker, it's going to be someone like a Pineda, whether that be through steroids or in the cage with a Yambag point deduction. I do think that is something that's be plausible here. Caceres in his own right fights very tall man style, has his fingers out sometimes. I know he's been relatively clean with it, but you never know what can happen if someone get a leg up. I don't mind this one as a Yambag shot, and I am so happy I got to talk Yambags with you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm going to have to throw money on that now. Like,
Nate, I will too. I'll do it.
That's just how it goes. Yeah, I'm just taking the easy way out this week. Typically, I like to look at a lot of these like southpaw versus orthodox fights. That's typically where I start, at least getting it together. Well, Tim Elliott against Victor Altamirano is southpaw versus switch stance. That certainly qualifies here. I'm not going to get into all the things that is going on in Elliott's personal life, but I said this could be the first ever murder bags bet, which would mean a ball shot and then he wins by KO and then he keeps beating him on the ground and like calling him Kevin and then gets disqualified. So I feel like that should be plus 9,000 for all three to happen. But yeah, this is like I'm literally going to bet this because I think that Elliott is coming in and not the right mindset. You're getting a fight that's going to have a lot of grappling, so cage grabs come into effect. You're also getting Elliott. He's making big weight cuts. He's 37 years old. I do think he could have some cardio issues as this fight goes on. And again, when you have opposite stances, you do get those low blows. The stances are open, and you get some weird striking exchanges. I know this is not a prop for the show, but as you and I and our friend, Danny Lags, do a lot of same game parlays, I would like your thoughts on a play that I'm considering. So I think Elliott getting around one takedown is very viable. And you could just add that to like over 2.5 minutes or whatever. Just try to get some kind of value. Gordo, what would you think about a play having each one of them to get at least one takedowns? Altamirano's had one in all 4 fights that he's been in at this level. And I think the last, Elliott's only twice not had a takedown.
Yeah.
And one was against Dodson, like, in 1943 or whenever they fought.
Yeah, Altamirano had 3 takedowns against Vinicius Salvador, which he had the grappling edge. He had 1 against Carlos Fernandez, which was a stand-up affair, and then he had 4 against Candelario. I think he's facing someone who is the largest takedown threat to date. So to me, if you get a good number on it, of course, you take that shot because Altamirano does do that, but I'm more so on the side that Elliott has the takedown upside here, right? Like Altamirano can be taken down. He's been taken down a bunch, and I do think that it doesn't stop here. Elliott could get those rinse and repeat takedowns because I do think Altamirano's get-up game's not bad. I'd more so look to like the 2+, 3+ takedowns for the Elliott side kind of thing.
But okay. I had written this down the other day. I just wanted to give you like an interesting stat that I don't have it in front of me right now, but I looked at Elliott's takedowns versus his control time. He doesn't get a lot of control time at all. Like, I think he had the one fight, he had like 4 takedowns. He had like 4 minutes and 17 seconds of control. So he's not really doing a whole hell of a lot with these takedowns, which if you're a DraftKings player is awesome. But, if you're betting on a side, it's not ideal. So, okay, I don't know what that is. Sorry, just forget about it. Forget about all that. So I just think it's an interesting fight because I do think Altamirano could have success late in the fight getting a takedown, but that's interesting to get your perspective. I do think that's a big. This is not a DraftKings show, but Gordo, this is a weird week where you're going to have 2 fighters at a combined 13,800 that are facing replacement opponents that are going to be considered free squares. And it's going to make for some very, very weird lineup construction. And we got a potential for like a 300 weight chop for first this week. And I lost Gordo, I guess. All right.
We do. And I don't know if I'm having internet issues on my end, so I do apologize for that. Hello, I think
You
I'm
are back.
back.
And we are, as Brady would say, and we
this
are back.
DraftKings week is the weirdest one to date.
Yeah, and if we get like a third fight that drops, dude, what if we get like, at this point, if we get a third fight that drops off, it's going to just come off the board completely. But dude, I mean, Miller and Malarkey at like 13,800, and really nobody in that, like, we don't have like a 9,800, like a 9,600 fighter this week. Like, we don't have like a big number where you feel like you have to make, concessions to get to. So I think that's going to be interesting. But that is for Gordo's other shows, which he's about to tell you about. Gordo, thank you for being on the show. Always a pleasure, my friend. Tell the people where they can find you, even though I've had it on the banner and in the description the whole time. Please tell the people where they can find what's going on.
I love it. I appreciate you, and I'm happy to talk fights as always. I appreciate you for having me on the show. Much love to you there. You can find all my stuff on my YouTube at Plays and Fade Sports. This week I actually went live. Usually don't do that. Usually it's a nice, well-manicured, edited video. This week I went live because of all the salary complications, but still a good time. Go check that out there. And then on Twitter at Gambles Gordo. If you got any questions, feel free to pop them in the DMs or at me there. I'm happy to talk fights anytime, and I look forward to this catastrophic week in DFS. And hopefully when I'm watching the card this weekend, I can look back to these big plus money props and cheer for some Yambags with my boy, Lou Betya. So shout out to him. Go check him out everywhere. Show some love to him. Make sure he gets all the credit he deserves. I appreciate us talking fights as always.
All right. You can find me on Lou Betya at Twitter. Next week, I have a big week. I'm just going to do that right now. Next week on the Prop Show, Dan Levy and Liam picks fights. First time I ever worked with Levy. Liam, much like Gordo, charter member of the Four Horsemen with myself and Wiz. I'm also going to be breaking down the Champions League final. It's the last big soccer game of the year. I'm going to do a whole separate show for that. And I will be doing a separate show breaking down the Belmont Stakes, which is the third leg of the Triple Crown. So not just MMA for me next week. I will be doing the Triple Crown of sports betting with MMA, soccer, and horse racing. So be on the lookout for all that cool stuff. I did hit a trifecta for the Kentucky Derby. I did pick the winner of the Preakness. So for whatever reason, I'm doing all right this year. So let's ride the wave. So anyway, guys, good luck on your bets. Protect your bags. And we will see you next week for another episode of Props to Consider and then maybe bet.